So as promised, I am now recording the Devil May Cry 4 video, or Devil May Cry video that I promised, but it is about Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition. So if you guys haven't been watching the DMC definitive streams, I just want to recap on what Capcom has officially said on the whole topic, and that's basically they will not be talking about Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition until after the launch of DMC Definitive Edition. So this gives us some time to basically just speculate about Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition as to what new features we can see within the game, whether it be new difficulty modes, new story content, new costumes, etc. Now, I've stated in one of my previous videos that I didn't really care about what Definitive Edition has to offer, and that still kind of remains true. I mean, I am interested to see if the game has improved at all, and it has to an extent, but it still looks like the same game, if that makes sense. I mean, sure, lock-on, 60 frames per second, and turbo mode make a huge difference in gameplay, but overall, it doesn't look like they've made any other major improvements outside of those, like, three things. So there's that, and also things like hardcore mode, which pretty much make the game play like a regular Devil May Cry game. That's something I think is a really good thing. But overall, I think the original game was bad. I've played it before, and I don't think I'll be going back to try Definitive Edition. If I do, I'll probably get it used. But, you know, I'm more than likely not going to. Now that we got that out of the way, why don't we talk about characters to possibly appear within Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition. So we already know that Virgil is in Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition. To what extent, we don't currently know about that, but I'm sure within the next few weeks after DMC Definitive Edition launches, we'll see some more information on that. Now, if you guys don't know my opinion on whether or not he's going to have his own story, I'm basically just going to repeat myself from one of my previous videos. I think he will have his own story, and that's just strictly based on how he looks in this game, because he clearly has a different costume compared to what he was wearing in Devil May Cry 3 Special Edition. So there's my thoughts on it. I personally think he's going to have his own story, but who knows, he might just be only playable in Bloody Palace. Right now, it's currently unknown, but we'll see in the coming weeks. Now, as far as his story goes, I think it's possible that it's based off the cut content, and it's a revised version of the cut content where Dante goes down into hell, but instead, now they incorporate Virgil, and maybe Virgil's trying to get out of hell, and Dante and Virgil might be working together to get out of hell together? I'm not too sure. Like I said, this is all speculation, nothing is official, but I would kind of hope so that that's the case. After all, we see Virgil like covered in like smoke, like he's been frozen or something like that. If you guys want more information on the cut content, I'd recommend checking out Vash TSB's channel or Vash the Shell Bullets channel. I'll leave a link down in the description below to his channel and the video where he goes into more detail about the cut content in the art book. And I'll be referencing back to his videos quite often in this videos. As far as Virgil's story goes, it's further supported by the fact that what we see in the initial trailer. I'll go back on this when I start talking about costumes and possible costumes we can see within this new Special Edition. Now, as far as other possible characters to show up within Special Edition, I would like to see Trish and Lady show up as playable characters. I know Lady might be it's a little bit debatable since she's only using all firearms, but I think there's a way to make it work somehow. But yeah, let's get started with Trish. It'd be easy for the development team to bring her back in, even if it's just an alternate costume for Dante or Virgil. It'd be perfect for an extra character to show up within the game. I mean, the last time we ever actually got to play as Trish was in Devil May Cry 2, which oddly enough, Devil May Cry 2 is a little bit more fun when you play as Trish. I don't know why, it just is. Now, some people might argue, well, she basically has the same moveset as Dante, The counter argument for that would be that her moveset could be easily updated and not play like Dante. But this is all just speculation for now. She might not even be playable in the actual game once it launches. But I think it would be pretty interesting to see. Even if it's an alternate costume, I think it'd be really interesting to see. Now, going back on having Lady as a playable character, I'm not sure how it would work. I would guess she would be primarily using Gunslinger, and this character would be dedicated for those people who really like using Gunslinger as opposed to any other style. I don't know if she would be able to have any other styles like Royal Guard. She definitely wouldn't have Swordmaster, and she could possibly have Trickster, I'm not too sure though, or a variation of Trickster. Now, as far as like unlocking the character or just being able to play as her from the get-go, I would assume that maybe she'd be only an alternate costume or only available in Bloody Palace. So I can't see this character showing up as much as I can see Trish showing up, but it's an interesting thought that I had. And that's all I really got for any other characters. Since there isn't really any other possible characters we can have to play as other than Dante, Virgil, Nero, Trish, and Lady possibly. I mean, of course you can bring up Lucia from Devil May Cry 2, but I don't think anyone really wants to see her come back. Now, I want to bring up costumes. I know I kind of touched upon it briefly, but I wanted to briefly talk about what seems a little bit more possible or more likely than other costumes. Before I get into actually talking about the costumes, I think all of these should have a super variant. For those of you that don't know what the super variant is, it basically allows each character to have infinite Devil Trigger, and in some cases also allow them to regenerate their health while in Devil Trigger. As far as Dante goes, I would assume that he would get all of the costumes he's had prior to Devil May Cry 4, so Devil May Cry 1, Devil May Cry 2, and Devil May Cry 3 standard costumes. If we're going off of previous games where we've had coatless versions of his costumes, I would assume we can see maybe a coatless version of his Devil May Cry 1 costume and maybe his Devil May Cry 3 costume. I'm going to bring that up quite a bit in this part of the video. And also a Sparta-inspired costume. And this is just kind of based off of what we've seen in the past. Like, obviously we've had a Devil May Cry 1 inspired costume within Devil May Cry 3 and a Sparta-inspired costume. So there's that, and I would assume that, or I would like to see that show up in Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition, along with maybe a Devil May Cry 2 and 3 costume. It's debatable as to whether or not these actually show up, especially the coatless versions, but I would at least like to see the standard costumes from the first 3 games show up as alternate costumes, and maybe a Sparta costume as well. Now, before I even get into some of the possible alternate costumes that we can see coming in from the art book, I would assume that because DMC just got the Devil May Cry 1 inspired costume for Tamim, and the classic Virgil costume for Virgin, I would assume that maybe Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition might include DMC inspired costumes for both Dante and Virgil. I've asked about that on the last DMC definitive stream. They couldn't answer my question on that, so which is understandable why they couldn't answer that, but I'm still assuming that this is the case, that there will be DMC inspired costumes. There might not be, again, because none of this is official, but if there is, my thoughts on that would be, I don't personally mind it, because I know that there are some fans that got into Devil May Cry because of DMC. I'm not talking about fanboys who just don't want to even touch the classic games. I'm talking about legitimate fans who just got into Devil May Cry through DMC, and, you know, they just happen to like DMC. And that's perfectly fine. If they want to have a costume that's based on one of the first Devil May Cry games they played, then that's totally fine. I'm more than likely not going to use it. Actually, no, I'm not going to use it. But it is understandable why they would include something like that. Again, this is just based off of what we're seeing with Definitive Edition. If we're seeing a Devil May Cry 1 inspired costume and a classic Virgil inspired costume. Again, none of this is official, but I would keep an eye out on that. Also, to go back on the DMC inspired costumes for Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition, this wouldn't be so much of a problem anyway, because this would entice fans of DMC to maybe buy Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition. I know you guys are thinking in the back of your mind how ridiculous Uncle Dante would look. Yeah, as far as alternate costumes go within the art book, I'll leave a link to Vash's video about the art book so you can see some of the costumes in more detail, or he talks about everything within the art book in more detail. If Virgil does have a story, we can assume that Dante will be wearing this like winter coat if he's going down into hell, and that's probably a part of the story, which is understandable. And hey, you know, if that means we can get another costume other than Super Dante, which I don't even consider an alternate costume in that game, I'd be okay with that. And of course, there's also the coatless version of the costume he wears in Devil May Cry 4. Like I said, I was gonna bring that up a lot in this video, and that's just because we've seen in previous games that we've gotten coatless versions of the default costume, so it's kind of expected at this point. But again, not a big deal if it's not included, but it is something I personally would like to see. So as far as alternate costumes for Nero, we can assume that maybe he'll get a coatless version. And Nero's coatless costume, that's just based off of what I've seen within the concept art. So yeah, there's that. And again, I know I bring this up a lot, but that's just something I expected to see. Hopefully this ends up turning out to be the case when Special Edition starts showing off what it has to offer. Any other costumes, we'd have to look at the art book. Now, there's costumes with him having like a casual clothing. There's costumes with him with like a regular jacket and a scarf, and there's multiple variations of this. I actually happen to prefer the one with the white scarf, but that's just me. There's also one with Nero having a white trench coat. As far as Virgil goes, I would assume that this means we will be seeing all of his costumes from the previous titles. I don't expect any new costumes for him, but I think it'd be pretty cool to see some new stuff. So that would be his original costume in Devil May Cry 3, his Nilo Angelo costume, which would basically be corrupt Virgil, and probably a coatless version of the Devil May Cry 3 costume, and then including his new standard costume. So that's 4 costumes in total for him. So there's 18 possible costumes, 9 for Dante. This is including the possible DMC inspired alternate costume, but not the Lady and Trish alternate costume. 4 for Virgil, including the DMC alternate costume, and 5 for Nero, and a possible Virgil-inspired costume. Again, all of this is speculation. I'm going to stress that a lot in this video, that this is all speculation. None of this is official. A lot of this is probably just me wishfully thinking that this is going to happen. I would at the very least like to see 2 alternate costumes for each character. So at the very least, we can have some variation instead of just 1 costume. Next, I want to move on to devil arms and firearms we could possibly see in Special Edition. For Virgil, we don't know if he's going to get any new devil arms, but if we assume that there's going to be a revised version of the cut content where both Dante and Virgil are in hell trying to get out, I would assume that maybe Virgil can use Ifrit and Alistair in the place of those 2 weapons. Yeah, sure, he wouldn't be getting any new moves, but overall, he'd basically be getting 2 returning devil arms that he didn't use, but Dante did, so there's that. There's also a possibility that Trish could use both Alistair and Ifrit if she was playable as an alternate costume, because obviously within the story for Devil May Cry 4, she gives away Sparta to the Order. And if we look at her combat in Devil May Cry 2, it seems like that would be a little bit more fitting for her to have Alistair and Ifrit, since that was basically her moveset in Devil May Cry 2 was sword, and then once you do round trip, you do melee attacks that set your arms on fire, which I thought was kind of cool. Now, as far as variations, I'd like to see a variation of Agni and Rudra, Cerberus, and Yvonne. So those are something I would like to see. Maybe for Nero, I can see Nero being an even better character than what he already is if he had something like Navon. And even Dante, if Dante had a variation of Navon, or just had Navon appear within either the new content, if we're getting new content, or just as an extra bonus for beating the game, I think that'd be really awesome, just to play around with Navon in 4. And more than likely these will just be variations and not the weapons themselves returning. And hopefully hopefully we do get to see something like that return. And also, Navon would make Nero's air guitar taunt look that much cooler. You know, just throwing that out there. As far as double arms go, you know, Nero is extremely lacking compared to Dante. I mean, Dante at least has 3 double arms plus Yamato when using Dark Slayer style. Nero, for whatever reason, cannot use Yamato outside of cutscenes, and I never understood that. Having Yamato outside of Devil Trigger would be really nice to see in Special Edition. Hopefully this turns out to be the case, but I highly doubt there's going to be any major changes like that for Nero. Now, to kind of go back on weapon skins, if we're going to assume that there's a DMC inspired costume, I could only assume that Rebellion and Yamato will look like what they do in DMC. I hope that's not the case, but that might happen. And as far as DMC goes, the only weapon I actually liked in DMC when I played that game was Osiris. So I'd like to see a variation either for Nero, for Dante, or for Virgil to use. Mainly Nero or Virgil, because I don't know if they're going to be getting any new weapons outside of the main weapon that they use. And then hopefully they'll add in like some new like insane types of weapons like Lucifer, Pandora. Again, to bring up Navon. As far as firearms go, I think Nero should be able to get like a lever action shotgun to go along with his double-barreled revolver, and maybe something like Nightmare Beta or Pandora. It would be really cool to see Nero having firearms like that. Now, this was the point where I was originally going to talk about styles, but because of the fact that none of the points that I've made were relevant about the styles, and they just kind of seemed more like changes you would see in a Devil May Cry 5 or Devil May Cry 0 or whatever Devil May Cry they decide to make next. So instead, I want to transition to possible modes we can see appearing from either the PC version of Devil May Cry 4 or DMC Definitive Edition. So possible modes we can see coming in from Devil May Cry 4 on the PC version and DMC Definitive Edition are Legendary Dark Knight mode. I think Turbo mode is going to be something both Definitive Edition and Special Edition are going to be boasting on the console versions. And then all the new modes that we see in Definitive Edition, so Gods Must Die, Must Dial, Hardcore, all those should probably be making an appearance in Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition. Now, Gods Must Die, I'm probably not going to touch because I am not that good at Devil May Cry. I really am not. The highest I can go is on very hard on Devil May Cry 3, although I've been trying to practice on Dante Must Die or Virgil Must Die, so there's that. Must Style, though, on the other hand, I'll probably use with Virgil since I'm a better Virgil player than I am Dante, but that's just me personally. And then I don't know what they could do with hardcore mode on Special Edition, but maybe they could make it where like every time you go into Devil Trigger, all of the enemies around you go into Devil Trigger and are immune to your attacks or something like that. I don't know. And one other thing before I go, please check out Vash TSB's channel if you're really into like Devil May Cry, whether it be DMC or Devil May Cry 4. So anyways, that's the end of this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.